Analysis from Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. Sir is an acknowledged leader with over 22 years of professional pharmaceutical organization, CRO setup, and academia. Sir is expertise in the areas of regulatory bioanalytics, biopharmaceutics, and early clinical development, including bioequivalence for small molecules and biosimilars, biologicals, GSP like GLP, GCP, and GMP compliance, including data integrity, gap analysis, and resolution for electronic data workflow and IT systems in GXP environment. Also, sir is CRO or vendor qualification, electronic solution deployment for automation of bioanalytical or clinical laboratory workflows, and has been supporting pharmaceutical organization in CROs in these areas. Sir is a member Scientific Programming Committee 2022 LEX Pharmaceutical Analysis, and has served as a track screening chair bioanalytics chemical entity abstract screening committee AAPS Farm Science 3060 AAPS 2018 member studying committee and member clinical PKPD subcommittee. Also, sir is having the biosimilars focus group AAPS abstract screener AAPS National Biotechnology Conference in 2021 and annual meetings 2010 onwards. The founding chairperson, Regulated Bioanalytical AP India, member of Steering Committee for Global Analytics Consortium on Harmonization of Bioanalytical Guidance, representing Asia Pacific region, and is an active member of Organizing Committee for Regulated Bioanalytics APA India. He is the chair Gujarat chapter on Society for Pharmaceutical Dissolution Science India. He has been a reviewer for various national and international conferences and has 23 publications, a book chapter, and many scientific representations in his credit. I cordially welcome you, sir, on behalf of Arianto family. Over to you, sir.
Jalpa, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't see my video is visible. Can you see me?
No, sir.
No,
No,
sir.
no, sir.
Okay. I'll quickly re-log in because I have to share the screen also, so you should not have issue. Just give me a
No
second.
problem.
Uh, I'll just try and share my screen and let's see. Is the screen visible?
No, sir.
You can't see the screen?
No, sir.
Madam, do we need to do any setting from our side to make him a presenter or something like that?
to window, and then I also took time for my granddaughter helped me.
I don't see any settings over there. Actually, it shows camera is on, so I'll have to change the device.
Sir can send the PPT to you, ma'am. Then we can share from our side. Huh?
Give me a second, I'll just change the device.
Hello, participants. Sir is joining within 2 minutes. Please wait.
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Again, I'm extremely sorry. I don't know what is the issue with the laptop, but just let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. So, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So, sorry for the hitch. I'm
Yes, sir.
just directly going on to the topic. But first of all, let me thank Arian School of Pharmacy and uh, actually the organizing team who has worked on this IIS's initiative about impact lecture series. What I'm going to do in next about an hour or so is focus on innovation trends in pharma and healthcare. So already Patak sir has elaborated how to develop the entrepreneurship mindset and how one should be kind of creative and try to translate that creativity into innovation. So let me start with this the same theme what he was talking about is. So let us look at this, some of these cartoons. I'll go one by one. So if you look at this cartoon, you will see there is a lot of information. There are many dots available, which typically is the case today. We have a lot of knowledge or access to a lot of information. This information, the knowledge that is available, how effectively we use, that comes with experience. So we start connecting dots and try to decipher some information which is relevant for us from the available information. And this is so we have been thinking in a particular direction and connecting these dots based on our experience. But creativity is something what you can see in this third cartoon. So these are the same. This is the same information, the same dots, but you are connecting it the way you want, right? So and it gives you a beautiful picture of a cat that you can see in this cartoon. So if you look at it, the most important skill in the future will be the ability to connect the dots in your own way, right? So that's where even Patak sir was mentioning about having your own thought process, right? And That is something is going to drive the next and coming future. And that's why it is, he also mentioned that creativity is mother of innovation. So that's where actually when you look at it, so creativity comes with certain traits, right? So you need to have certain skill set, you should have imagination power, you should be motivated to do something different, and you should be always curious about the things happening around you. Then only probably this creativity can translate into the next level. The one is having creativity for the sake of it, and then translating it into innovation. And the innovation again, we try to bring it to market, or as an entrepreneur, we try to bring this innovation to market and solve certain problems of the consumer at large. Right. So the first barrier here is uh, the mentoring or proper guidance that you should get how to translate your creative idea into an innovation. Now, the moment I say innovation, it is not something new that we are doing for the first time, but we are actually adding value to what is available, right? Or what technology which is already available. So we try to use it for bringing more value to its users. I've tried to get uh, you the another aspect of it is when you want to translate this innovation into the product. The second barrier that you may face is the funding or the economic environment. So if it is conducive, it is easy for us to translate the innovation into the products or the services or the business models, and that's when it becomes applicable to the user. So when we are thinking about creativity and innovation, it is always important that you would have benchmarking for your innovative thoughts or the innovative ideas. So how an innovative idea should be. So it should be helpful to the people. It should save time. It should be adding to the convenience of the users. It should be cost effective, and it should improve quality. So these are like benchmarking criteria for any idea that you think is innovative and will be helpful. And then when we walk through the innovation process, so first we look at what is the problem, right, that we want to solve. So problem identification becomes the most critical step, and like uh, once Einstein also had mentioned that if I'm given, say, 100 days to make this world better, 99 days I'll spend in finding what is the problem, and one day probably I'll use for giving the solution for it. So problem identification is most critical step when you actually try to have innovation that is being developed and then deployed in terms of a product or a service. So you identify the problem and the idea or the solution is thought about, and this particular idea then is evaluated whether it really fits into the purpose that you want or the problem that you want to solve. And then this I mean this idea which is now validated is then taken for further development, and you start validating the solution that you have in the real environment to this something like you are looking for validation of the product, and then it goes into the commercialization, to the technology transfer, and ultimately whatever innovation path we are following and the knowledge that we are generating, that is actually the it can be either in the open source for everyone to access and we leverage the value from it, or we can protect this knowledge through intellectual property, right? So that's how the innovation process works. And ultimately through innovation we are actually empowering the society. So why I'm giving this context is when we are talking about innovation trends in pharma and healthcare, it is important for us to keep in mind the basic aspects of innovation. So we always get kind of confused with respect to invention and innovation. So there's a little difference when it comes to invention. Actually, we are creating a product or introducing the process for the first time. But in innovation, we are improving on or adding significant value to the existing product, process, or service. So that is the difference between the two. And the innovation again can be of two types. One can be demand pull innovation or technology push innovation. So demand pull is nothing but it is based on the customer's requirement, right? So it is originating from the intention to satisfy the need that is expressed by the market. So the best examples are like Uber's, Ola's, Zomato, Netmates, MNG, Pharmacy. So these are the innovations that came from looking at the pain point of the customers or the users. And on the contrary, if you look at the technology push innovations, they are basically generating from technological uh, advancements or R&D activities where you want to build a competitive advantage with the new technology. So this may or may not have customer available, but probably you are doing certain radical innovation and you are generating new markets. So as you can see, Facebook came as the first social media platform, right? So no one was aware other than emails earlier. But 3D printing came in as new technology, which can do wonders these days. So we are talking about wearables. We are talking about very advanced therapeutic modalities like cell and gene therapy. But these are again, so you are creating set of customers or changing the customer behavior with these technology push innovations, right? And the moment we talk about technological innovations, the patents or the intellectual property plays a very important role. So the trend globally is you protect these technological inventions and innovations by filing the patents. And if you look here, this is the progression of it from 2000 to 2018. You can see here there is almost three-folds increase in the patents that have been filed for either in medical technology, biotechnology, or pharmaceuticals. Right. So what it means is there is a lot of innovation happening in this technical area. Not only that, during even pandemic, the patenting continued to actually grow at a very high speed. And if you look at the four major sectors, pharmaceutical, biotech, organic fine chemistry, and medical technology, you will see that there have been advancements in the number of patents that are being filed. Though it was a pandemic had hit in 2020 on. So newer and newer diagnostic techniques or newer and newer drugs that have come into market, vaccines that have come in market, they also opened up a lot of intellectual property. So there is something called as this Global Innovation Index. I'm sure most of you may be familiar, but when you look at the latest Global Innovation Index, you will be surprised to know that it is not US, but Switzerland is the top, on the top as far as global innovation is considered. So there are two indices. What are the innovation inputs and what are the outputs of those inputs? So based on that, it is decided globally that Switzerland ranks the first or the topmost country, while US is on the third. And if you look at India, we are at the 46th position. And it's actually very proud moment for us as well because from Indian perspective, if you look at, we have been fairly doing good. If you look here, so in 2015, we were at 81st position. In 2020, we were at 48th position, and now in 2021's index, we are at 46th position. So this indicates that the environment in India is conducive for innovation now. And within that, if you look, the top three innovation economies by region, so you'll see that India is on the top when it comes to Central and Southern Asia. So this way, we are seeing that in various sectors, the innovation has been promoted in India for last few years. And similarly, there is something called as India Innovation Index, and which was published in 2020 by NITI Aayog. So if you look from within India, so Gujarat stands at the eighth position as far as the innovation index is concerned. Karnataka being the leader, and in if you talk about northeastern states, Himachal is at the top, and in Union territories, Delhi is at the top. So what it tells is there is a conducive environment in these states or those union territories for innovation. So uh, the moment we talk about innovation, it is also important to understand the basic concept of how the technological innovations are developed. And there is something called as technology readiness levels or TRLs. So there are nine TRLs, which are actually it was devised first by NASA, where it says that so there are different phases when right from the idea to taking a particular product or service to the market. So it starts with research. Give me a second. I'll try to pull the. Yeah. So there are three broad phases: research, development, and deployment. So research is when you actually have kind of a basic principles of the particular uh, technology are understood. The concept is formulated at TRL2, and at TRL3, you start experimenting to prove the concept. So you would have conceptualized the product and you start building the proof of concept. And then development stage, that is TRL4, you are validating this concept in the lab, and then on TRL5, you are actually validating this particular solution in the relevant environment. And at TRL6, you are demonstrating the use in the relevant environment. And when it comes to TRL7, 8, and 9, you are at the advanced stage. You are at the scaling up, and you are seeing that the system prototype is working in the operational environment. And later the system is complete and qualified, and at TRL9, the actual system is proven in the operational environment. So in short, if I have to say that TRL1 we start with the idea, and TRL9 is when your product is commercialized or your service is commercialized. So it is very important for understanding this when you are into technological innovation. And when you talk about pharma and healthcare as a sector, the TRLs are very appropriate. So I'll just give you an example how the TRLs, that is innovation development levels, actually relate to the drugs, right? So as I said, for drugs, even for drug deliveries, at TRL1 you are actually you are identifying the need of that particular problem and looking at the what are the basic principles involved, right? So you do a lot of literature search or scientific research to understand this. At level 2, you are into proof of principle, so where the ideas are developed or you hypothesize certain solution for that particular problem. At 3, you are actually doing the POC or the demonstrating the proof of concept. This can be done. Most of you know that you are doing in vitro studies and in vivo studies, right? To understand whether that particular molecule or that particular new entity is working or not. So you get that assessment from the inventory experiments, and then you go for establishing the POC by actually doing the safety and efficacy studies in the animal models. Right? Then you move on, and when you are doing the safety analysis, so you are actually doing the regulated safety and efficacy studies, that is preclinical studies. And once you got the safety established here at TRL5, you move on to manufacture the investigational products in the GMP facility, which can further be used for the clinical trials. And at tier 7, 8, you are actually doing the late stage validation or pre-commercialization by doing phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials. As you know, they are done in patients, and you have phase 2 as a proof of concept clinical trial and phase 3 as the confirmatory trial. So this is how the pharmaceutical or the drug innovation is advanced. And then ultimately, once your phase 3 data is favorable, you are getting the approval as TRL9, where you get marketing authorization from the regulatory body, and you continue doing post-marketing surveillance. So this is how the innovation in pharma and healthcare sector is looked at uh, when it comes from idea to commercialization. So while bringing this to the market, this is not done by one person, right? So there are multiple stakeholders uh, and enablers who are responsible for bringing this innovation to the market. So if you can see here, in the innovation ecosystem for pharma healthcare, you have enablers like infrastructure, that is labs and facilities. You have the fundings from various agencies. You have regulations or policies which actually control the various aspects of and they actually protect the patient's interest. And on the other side, the stakeholders, you have big pharmas and biopharma companies, you have startups and entrepreneurs. So that's what is the focus of, I think, this IIC's theme for the impact series. We also have academia and public and private research institutes which also contribute for developing newer and newer innovations. And of course, the clinical research institutes and hospitals also has a big role to play when we want to bring any innovation to market, right? So that's where we look at the clinical trials or getting the experts' insights into building a product and a product proposition in this sector. So while we have been understanding what is innovation, how the innovation is developed, what are different technology readiness levels, and who are the enablers or stakeholders in the process, all of us have learned a lot from COVID-19 pandemic, right? So this is the latest snapshot of the COVID infection globally. So you can see 545 million cases, right, and 6 million deaths have been reported to date. And this pandemic has actually changed a lot of thought process, or as Dr. Pathak was mentioning about wearing different glasses to look at the same situation. So pandemic actually worked in that direction. So not only globally, if we look at even India's picture, it is not. I mean, of course, we did much better than many countries in the world, but we still have that impacting the economy, impacting the sector, pharma and healthcare sector. And we have seen that due to COVID, there have been a lot of changes in the approaches. Not only that, it is clearly seen from the top 20 drugs which in 2020, so you had majority of them, out of 20 probably you have 11 drugs which were biologics, because that was the trend. There are many off-patent biologics, that's why people have started working towards that. But if you look here, so the majority of products in the top 20 and in top selling list are biologics, as well as some of them are small molecules. But in 2021, we can clearly see here that the Humira, which is the leading biologic, which is on the top for last 5 years, as I know, that also has gone to the second position, because COVID-19 mRNA vaccine, Comirnaty, has taken the top position with respect to sales. Not only that, even Spikevax also has made entry into top selling drugs. So COVID actually has changed the requirements as well as the novel and novel therapies such as vaccines of variety of types have come in the market, right? And not only that, there have been a lot of breakthrough medicine that have come up in the past year, that is 2021, including various vaccines, as we saw, especially for COVID-19 vaccines, and there are certain oral antiviral drugs that have come in picture. So latest now, I'm sure most of you know that molnupiravir is in demand. So for whatever wave number you call, fourth wave, fifth wave, so currently that has become the drug of choice for treating COVID-19. Not only that, we also had vaccines for Ebola virus or malaria that has been coming in the market. And beyond that, there are other classes of drugs that are also that have become breakthrough medicines, which are dependent on CRISPR therapy or CRISPR technology. We also had newer treatment for premature aging. We also saw novel antifungal that is being launched. We also had cross complement protein C3 inhibitor to treat rare blood disorders, and also a novel treatment for Alzheimer's disease. So if you think of inventions and innovations, so as you see that uh, COVID had a lot of impact in the last 3 years, right? And all those communicable diseases, immunocompromising diseases, and that's where everybody started working in that area for newer and newer therapies. So not only that, we see that there are a lot of technological interventions happening these days, uh, and the focus being like you want to bring patient-centric, agile, self-learning, pharma manufacturing and supply chain. Now, when I say all of you must appreciate that, in spite of tremendous supply chain challenges during pandemic, pharma companies have been working day in day out to produce the required medicines, right? But everybody learned hard way that the supply chain. I mean, if you don't get raw materials, how am I going to make the medicines? Right? At the same time, to make the API, if you're not getting the key intermediates or if you're not getting the starting raw material, how am I going to synthesize that? How am I going to make that particular biological? So that's where a lot of work has been happening, and people are realized very hard way that it is very essential to bring technology into the entire system. That's where you can see here, like artificial intelligence or variables and sensors is people have started working on. We have cloud-based platforms which will actually help you to integrate the manufacturing and the supply chain. So, and I can give you one example. One of the startups which is working here at AICMC Foundation, they have devised it is called as a tag. So this is a tag which can be tested to the medicine box, and in the entire supply chain, wherever is the medicine lying, you can get real-time data which tells you how much drug is left in the given particular drug container or the drug vial. Now, you would be surprised, this is real-time data. It has certain sensors which takes into account the environmental exposures to this medicine, the jerks, the pressure, several types of transit-related issues, and their impact on the medicine or the stability of the drug are taken into account. And with the artificial intelligence, you can predict how much drug would have been available at the time or at the site where the particular drug is in the supply chain. So this has actually started giving visibility in supply chain. We also have online platforms, right? So medicines, people started ordering medicines online. right? E-pharmacy. And there is also something called as robotic process automation, because we know that during COVID there is a lot of I mean fear of unknown, because we didn't know that how the infection is spreading, right? So many robotic interventions were sought, so the human doesn't get into contact, and there is I mean you can actually curtail the spread of the infection, right? So we also have 3D printing that has come up, and now people have started printing the personalized dosage, right? As we go ahead, we see that precision medicine is the next generation concept, and individualized therapy is going to be the next generation concept or the way to treat. But then more and more technology gets involved. There have been certain vulnerabilities. So that's where actually blockchain kind of technology has come in place, where you can track and trace the drug's quality. You can also look at the management of labels. So there are so many advantages of this blockchain technology, which pharma and healthcare industry is going to embrace. And of course, various types of realities, they call it as AR, VR, or XR, that is augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, or even MR, that is mixed reality. So these are the other technologies which are getting a lot of attention by all the pharma and healthcare companies. So where one can get remote assistance to the on-site workers, right? So what is happening on site, you can inspect sitting at one place. So this will help in improving work efficiency and so on and so on. Not only in manufacturing and supply chain, but also in R&D. There has been a lot of intervention of technology. Again, the same technologies I am revealing here, AI, AR, VR, wearable sensors, so they have a big role even in R&D stage. And as I already mentioned about cloud computing and blockchain, so where data generation, data handling, and data exchange is involved, blockchain is actually providing a large secure environment, right? So that's where people have started deploying blockchain technology there. And also, of course, genetics and genomics have also helped to develop targeted therapies, and that will continue, right? So this will actually, when we talk about cell and gene therapy, we look at the individualized therapies, right? So that's where you are working with the autologous cells to develop a particular treatment for a particular disease. So a lot of these advancements are penetrating into the research and development situation. So if you look at what are those trends which are impacting companies? So actually, pharma company, most of us know that we are highly regulated environment, right? And any change to the technology or any adoption of technology needs to be again I'm sure, I mean, many of you must be knowing about qualification of any technology, right? So you have to do right from uh, design qualification. So you have to do IQ, OQ, PQ of any system that you change in the regulated environment, and then deploy the system after training the users, right? So though pharma is very shy, I mean, pharma shies away from technologies, but there is now no go. So they have started adopting several technologies such as AI, additive manufacturing, blockchain, and there are many industry 4 technologies that are making inroads into the pharma companies. And why so? I mean, this is all helping to spur the innovation in the industry. So, and this is possible because of there are a lot of investments happening in this sector. The technologies are growing. A lot of patents are expiring for the drugs and the biologics, and there's a lot of inter-organizational
એમને
collaboration
તમે
that happened.
હમણાં નીચે ઘરે
That's where
જતી
we have
વખતે આવશો જ
seen
ને
that
5:30
like
મારે પેલું રેકોર્ડિંગ થાય છે
Moderna, Pfizer,
આ
we are talking about
સેમિનારનું.
Oxford University, AstraZeneca, and then Serum Institute. They're
હા
working
ચલો તો આવી ગયું
together
વાંધો
for
નહીં.
bringing one particular vaccine to market
હા.
to the patients, right? And favorable regulatory environment, as we saw for vaccine development, typically any drug review would take any time between 6 months to 5 years or so. But like during the development of this vaccine, the regulatory body was involved right from day one. So that's where most of the clinical decisions could be taken faster and the vaccine could come faster to the market. So when we look at various innovation trends, of course, you will find many different reports available on the internet. But I picked one where it was a survey from about 1,800 startups and scale-ups to understand what are those innovation trends which will have impact on the pharma industry. So this is the outcomes. There are like uh, you can see there are 10 such innovations like AI, big data and analytics, flexible production, precision medicine, additive manufacturing, blockchain, ER, real world data, digital therapeutics, and curative therapeutics. So these are the 10 influencing trends which will have a big impact on the pharma industry. And if you look at the impact of this individual technology, AI has the most prominent impact on the pharma industry. So 21% out of 100%. And then subsequently, the big data analytics and flexible production are the technologies to be watched out for. And then, of course, the precision medicine, blockchain, additive manufacturing. These are the technologies one really need to look at. Now, when I was talking about artificial intelligence and its important, its increasing impact, we know that typically it takes 12 years for a drug to come to the market. But when it came to COVID-19 vaccines, we have witnessed that these vaccines were developed, tested, and approved within a year's time. Right? Not only that, AI was also deployed in distribution of vaccines. So basically, artificial intelligence has come in designing and distributing these vaccines, which has helped to save a lot of time. Not only that, the global AI in healthcare market is rapidly growing and it is expected to be $31.3 billion by 2025. So, what AI does is this technology has a power to process historical data, competitors' data, third party data while learning and adapting in real time. So, you train these artificial intelligence algorithms which can be trained on the go and you can also adapt them on the go. So that's how it helps us to save the time. Otherwise, traditionally, what we are doing is we are conducting experiments, we are collecting the data, we are analyzing the data, trying to interpret that data, and based on that, then we move on to the next step. Right? But here, most of the things can happen on the go. So that way, the AI can help us to get data from many sources, analyze the data, and build that intelligence for predicting what can happen next. And that is the reason your maybe this technology will help us to give insights into all other requirements, such as looking at what is the precedence, what is the regulatory landscape, what are the competitors' development plans for a particular drug. So all this information, which is curated or which is built with an intelligence, can help us to bring viable drugs quickly in the market. So not only that, we have seen that the clinical trials are also using technology, right? So artificial intelligence is one of them. We also talked about big data analytics. So Big data analytics helps in kind of stratifying the patients. You can also look at the trial related aspects using that particular technology. Now, in the clinical trial, also one can use video conferencing or wearables or mobile applications, and the sponsor company can then connect virtually with the patients, right? So you otherwise, in current situation, you are deploying the CRO. The CRO sends their study monitors to the sites. The monitors look at the data. You have study personnel or study team which is sitting there at the hospital site. So to get the insight about what is happening with the patient, you have to go through many layers of information, which can be avoided through the newer and newer technologies. It also further brings in self-monitoring tools that will help, like now we talk about patient diaries, but these self-monitoring tools can help to get data from the patient seamlessly in the workflow. And as we know, these health and fitness applications are growing at a very fast pace, and it is expected to grow to $13 billion by 2025. Further, clinical trials are going to be much faster if we bring in technologies such as digital pills. Now, these are the pills or the formulations which may have ingestible sensors, right? So it will help you to enhance the accuracy of monitoring and reporting. It is also called as trackable drugs, right? I was talking about these sensors which can be ingested. Not only sensors but even cameras which can be ingested so that you will get the patient's progress remotely. Such technologies are also under development. And all these types of nanotechnologies actually are going to help uh, shorten the duration of the clinical trial. So you can have faster drug development. So when we are talking about tracking and tracing, it has really become very important, especially in the supply chain, that we need to figure out where, at what time, a particular drug supply is lying, right? So you probably have many digitalized solutions for this supply chain. But the moment we talk about digitization, there is always a threat of cyber security, right? So that's where again techniques like blockchain needs to be deployed. So there has been a lot of kind of, as I said, cyber attacks is one, but also uh, counterfeiting and drug tampering is on rise. So to control that also blockchain can help. So these technologies are definitely making inroads. In some cases, they are already on the ground in this pharma and healthcare sector. So it is necessary that one should have a solution which is timestamping, encryption, and digital ledger can be deployed. So this will help us to know where the drug was made, when it was made. Right? So you can track and trace your starting materials, ingredients, so that you can ensure quality at a very faster rate. So that will give a lot of visibility for not only to the manufacturers but also to the consumers, because consumers also can similarly track the deliveries of their medicines, right? So as we look at Olas and Ubers, you can make out, right, where the cab has reached. So that way you can also look at the delivery of your medicines or your healthcare needs. So as I was mentioning, in this space, even 3D printing of drugs at hospitals or even at the patient's home is something people are working on, so that you can remove the last mile of distribution, right? So how a specific drug reaches to the patient, if I can 3D print that particular medication at the patient's home. I mean, there's nothing like that, right? So we have last mile connection already done. So these are very fascinating technologies or thought processes that are coming into place. So a lot of digital transformation is happening in pharma and healthcare, and everywhere the patient is in the center. So that's why a lot of thought is going for quicker delivery of medicines to the patients, and also the secure supply chains. So tamper-proof supply chains is something people are looking at. So ultimately, the entire research and development is driven by the either artificial intelligence or insights and the technology-enabled clinical trials. So, as an innovation trend, we know that going forward it will be personalized treatment, and there is a novel concept which is called as performance-based payment. So it depends on if your treatment works, then only the manufacturer will get payment, right? So this is something is possible uh, by deploying certain technologies in the workflow. So when I say patient-centric healthcare, as I already mentioned, some therapeutic modalities like cell and gene therapy, they are very successful for certain diseases, but at the same time they are incredibly expensive. Right? So not everyone can afford. So it is important that how you build the drug reimbursement model. So when we talk about insurance, that's where most of in Western countries your treatments are covered with insurance and you get reimbursements for the expenses that you do for such expensive therapies. So while doing that, so this as I was mentioning, people have come up with the concept called as performance-based contract. So you administer a drug, but if it works, you will get paid for it. If it doesn't, you will not. So there is example cited here that in Italy, the payments are made in three installments for any such CAR T cell therapies. First, on enrollment in the treatment. Second installment goes during treatment, and third is given in the fifth year of patient survival. Just imagine. And now we talk about price capping. Here, it is talking about paying to the manufacturer based on the performance of the product. So this is going to be really a challenge for the business people. So you need to have personalized patient-centric care also. So you actually generate a lot of individual health data and well-being data, which needs to be in control with that particular individual. So today's world, a lot of our health data we don't have access or we don't control ourselves. Our health records are lying at multiple places, right? So the laboratory pathology lab where you get your samples analyzed, they have the data. The doctors have your entire health records or health data. But you don't own that particular data yet. So thus, and going forward, this is what is expected that once you have personalized patient-centric care, you will have all the information with you. There are a few other trends, like I have divided it into two types. The first one is information tools, right? So digitized medicine, I just mentioned. So you may have smart pills with ingestible sensors or smart patches which can collect the patient's health data, and that can be used for optimizing the therapy. You will have a lot of mobile apps, right? And these apps are made for pharma companies so that they can assist the patients on managing their conditions, right? So these apps can help patients to understand the treatment and have better outcomes of the treatment. There are many cloud-based solutions which again will help pharma companies for collecting the data from multiple stakeholders, right? And AI emphasized a lot. Big data analytics also I mentioned about. So these technologies are the tools, if you look at, they are related to the information, right? And the second set of tools are integrated devices. So there, as we know, wearables and IoT. So this is going to have a huge opportunity for pharma companies by which they can gather a lot of personalized data, and based on that they can devise a very actionable point of care. So that's why these wearables are gaining a lot of importance. And actually, this will help us, or the basically the manufacturers, to offer care everywhere, right? So you are accountable once you have the variable which collects your data, then you can have action based on the data that you are getting. And there is another interesting integrated device that is called as quantified cell. So days are not far where we will have implanted body sensors or invisibles, even the body area networks and wearables. So these kind of technologies or the devices will monitor our health parameters in a very passive and comfortable manner. So these will play a really immensely important role in when it comes to clinical trials. Next is virtual medicine. Again, I was explaining you about AR, VR, and XR. So these technologies will also act as virtual medicines. I'll give you example. I know, there are four startups working in Ahmedabad who are deploying this virtual reality technology for treating certain diseases such as dementia, Alzheimer's, and others. So these are very, very uh, uh, promising devices when it comes to even post-trauma stress disorders, right? Rehabilitations, managing the pain, and so on and so on. So I already mentioned about the augmented reality, so that can work as a very useful educational and training tool for patient as well as the service provider or the healthcare provider. Now let us look at various game-changing technologies in the sector. So I'm sure you cannot read most of the information here, but I will point out here is the color coding is based on the technology readiness. So the dark brown is TRL1, and the peacock, peacock green is TRL9. So if you look at various technologies are given here as the outer circle. All these dots and the color codes tell you at what stage these technologies are, and as you go inside, their impact increases. The ones which are in the outer periphery, they don't have any impact, but as it goes inside, you have higher and higher impact on the healthcare. So just to tell you what are those technologies, it is 3D bioprinting, antimicrobial packaging, autonomous robotic surgery. Now here, both pharma and healthcare sectors are combined. So you have bioelectronic medicine, biological process identification and modeling, biomanufacturing, various biomimetic devices, that is, you know, uh, implantable devices I was mentioning. You have brain-computer interfaces. Of course, CAD is still on the front, computer-aided drug design, drug discovery rather, and then CRISPR technology, conversational systems, digital twins, synthetic biological engineering. So these are the concepts and the technologies that are actually having great impact in coming years on pharma and healthcare sector. Also, as we saw, embedded health monitoring sensors, ER, there are certain technologies called as eye tracking technologies, This is something like you also can have, say for example, a contact lens which will have certain sensors and that will help you to get information. Internet of behavior, nano manufacturing, nanomedicine, portable medical devices, right? So this is what where the world is going now. We're talking about predictive gene-based healthcare, the technologies which enhance the privacy, self-healing materials, smart clothing technologies, stretchable electronics, virus-proof fabrics. So these are certain technologies which are the future. They are going to have serious impact as far as pharma and healthcare sector is concerned. Right? So coming back, when you're talking about innovation, and as we know, we are very familiar with this funnel, uh, like right from the basic research to taking the drug to the market and then doing post-marketing surveillance. Each phase of this entire drug life cycle has tremendous opportunities for innovation. No doubt, we know there are very few drugs which are there for almost more than 50 years or 100 years. But we have seen that the drug modalities are changing very fast. So they are trying to address a specific problem of the patient. That's how there's a tremendous scope for even having the same drug delivered differently, same drug repurposed for different diseases, and so on and so forth. And not only discovery and development, but entire pharma life life cycle or the entire pharma chain, not only uh, making the product but also marketing, distribution, the supply chain, then withdrawals from the market, so on and so forth. All these areas, there is a tremendous potential for innovation, and the innovation is brought by these days what we call startups. So if I'm just giving you a global map of startups across the globe, and you'll be happy to see that there are like almost 6,500 startups in India who are working on various innovations and trying to solve many problems. And I'm sure most of you know that there have been so many unicorns, that is, startups having their valuation more than 1 billion. Uh, 1 billion. So they are uh, growing, then that those numbers are growing so fast. So we are also becoming a startup economy, and that's where more and more innovations are happening, and people are enjoying the entrepreneurship in pharma and healthcare sector to solve several problems. So one such incubation center which supports startups is our incubation center, AI Syringe Foundation. As initially she introduced that we are focusing on pharma and healthcare sector, and if somebody has an innovative idea to solve any of these pharma and healthcare sector related problems, we look at it whether it has whether first and foremost whether the idea is innovative, if that idea can be scaled up, and if that business model can sustain in the market. So if we look at these criteria for any idea in pharma and healthcare sector, we support with all the uh, help that any startup will need. So that can be either domain expertise, and mentoring and facilitation for funds, or even support for company formation, legal support, IP support, any kind of support a startup would need for translating the innovative idea in pharma and healthcare sector to the business or bringing it to the market. That is what 360-degree support we have established at AIC Foundation to foster this innovation and translate the innovative ideas into actual working businesses. So there's a lot of support from the ecosystem And so we have a lot of mentors. We have a strong network globally, which is extended to all the startups. And we have collaborated with many industries, research institutes, hospitals, professional organizations. So this gives a wide audience to the startups when they are working on their innovative idea. And they may need a specific support which we can extend through all these networks. So lastly, I would show you something which I always share with the audience is there's something called as a mind map which was built by Richard Watson of UK. So what he did is he looked at certain sectors. I don't know how you can read through this, but on the right side, if you will see there are various sectors that have been identified, and it also talks about how this sector is going to move when it comes to technologies from 2017 to 2050. So I'm going to highlight on the health sector. So let me try and kind of expand this. Can you see the health here? So if you talk about the healthcare sector, so it all starts with artificial intelligence in general practice and surgeries. So this is where, I mean, this is a visualization where the technology may go in the next 30 years or so. Then he also visualized one in two people will be suffering from mental health problems. That's what we have started seeing, that the mental illness is on the rise. Then we can have gamification in the healthcare, right? Internet-based therapies will pop in. You may have microbiome-based healthcare. Now this is also an upcoming trend, right? So there's a lot which is talked about the microbiota of our GI tract. Then doubling of dementia. So forgetfulness will increase two times by 2050. Then we have already started talking about robotic surgery, 3D printing of organs. This has also started. Then multi-resistant organisms will be on rise. We're also talking about personal digital diagnostic devices, right? So most of the families we see now, we have one or the other diagnostic device which is lying in the cupboards. There are three parent pregnancies. We already started witnessing the surrogate uh, pregnancy, and it is expected that the internet addiction will be on rise. We will have even sperm-free reproduction. It is expected that there will be body hacking and augmentation. As we saw, we're talking about implantable sensors and so on and so forth. On the same lines, it is expected that there will be body hacking. Medical records will be implanted in the human body. That is what is kind of visualized. This is where the technology is going. So you also have male and female versions of common drug. That is another way of going towards the gender-specific drugs rather than smart pills. We are talking about brain implants to improve the memory. You may have paramedic drones. So now whatever paramedic support you want, you would have it with drones. And you will start printing or 3D printing the drugs. And also you may have digital body doubles, and you can run entire physiological simulations. And so this is how it is expected that technology is going to evolve very fast, and these are the trends, or these are expected trends when it comes to health sector. So even, I mean, on the top it says robots giving birth to children, right? So We are seeing the technology is introducing everywhere. We are seeing a lot of innovations happening ultimately to uh, care for the patients, patient-centric delivery of the healthcare and the pharmaceutical alternatives. So that's where the trends are. So if I had to summarize my uh, discussion so far, so what I was trying to give you was a flavor of innovations in the pharma and healthcare sector, not only today but maybe 3 decades from now, where we are going, and one needs to be very aware about the things that are happening around. So, just to give you, I don't know if anybody could read this. This is again thinking little outside the box. So what I was trying to ask question is, do you have any innovative idea in pharmaceutical and healthcare? If so, you can contact us and we can help you to translate that into your entrepreneurial venture. So thank you for attention, and I once again apologize for the glitches. Yeah, I stopped sharing the screen.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm grateful to you for sharing your vast knowledge regarding research and development, drug development by innovation and research ideas, as well as drug development and their impact on pharmaceutical industry. Thank you so much, sir. Concluding today's session, both the lectures were very informative and encouraging students about entrepreneurship and innovation. From Arient family, I'm thankful to both the speakers for spending their valuable time and sharing their vast knowledge with us. I would like to thank all the participants as well as all the present faculty members for their active participation in today's session. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, sir. It
Thank
was
you, sir.
wonderful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.